These Zelda bosses always putting their kryptonite in the same dungeon that they live in.
Yeah, they put like the thing that will kill them in the dungeon, right? Like, my one weakness is in here. Discord said absolutely not to that. I knew what you were doing, but I did not get the of mustard.
You just heard the must?
The must.
You heard the must of mustard.
All I got was the must.
All I got was the must. Wow, that may be the earliest potential
title
for an episode we've done. That was impressive.
Hello and welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It is the Optimist video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase.
And my name is David.
We here.
Once again, we are here. Yes.
I broke down and got the true gamer chair, David.
Oh, you're sitting on a new chair.
Sitting on a fresh chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it like a Secret Lab or whatever it is? Is that the popular brand?
Got that Hermie Miller, baby.
Oh, that is the thinking man's gamer chair. Truly.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's the true gamer chair. It's like when you get to the point in a video game where like you're just getting ridiculous sword after ridiculous sword that keeps getting upgraded, and then the final Ultima weapon is just like the single simple sword that's like actually the best weapon in the game. That's the Hermie Miller because it looks so unassuming. Yeah. It's like that's just a chair that just looks like a normal chair. Man, I can sit in this.
It's a good chair. They know what they're doing.
It's a good chair. Feels good. It like, I don't know what these gamer chairs got going on because like they're not comfortable for long periods of time.
I have heard that the gamer chairs are not good quality.
No, yeah.
They look cool, but they ain't for sitting.
No, they look like they should be comfortable. Yeah. Like visually to me, I'm like, that looks like a place I could put my butt. But in this one, I'm like, isn't that going to be a little tight? Not a lot of room to breathe in there. No, my friend. Wow. Just the perfect amount of tilt can change how much fucking resistance you get from the tilt. Armrests are in the perfect position. Oh, baby.
Hell yeah. Love to hear it. How many doubloons did that set you back?
I bought it used, so it wasn't quite as bad.
Good call. So that's why they're like expensive.
Yeah, usually they are pretty expensive, but Facebook Marketplace hooked it up.
Nice. Facebook Marketplace would be the place to get a used Herman Miller chair in Seattle, I think, right?
Seattle specifically.
Yes, that's a very Seattle move.
Yes, there's a huge amount of both tech workers and people who are like, hey, we're moving out of this building and we don't know what to do with all these like office chairs, like does somebody want them, or like we'll give you like a cheap rate and then somebody buys like 20 of them and then that's just their Facebook Marketplace job for a little while.
Hell yeah, that's fun.
Which like respect the hustle, you know?
Gotta hustle. It's the only way to get ahead.
They delivered this thing to my door, so like
they delivered it to your door.
Sick. I know. Whoa. Yeah, it was like just a person who showed up and pulled it out of their trunk. I'm like, all right, cool.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, so I'm feeling in the right position physically and mentally for podtimism right now.
You can't separate the physical from the mental. I'm glad that your physical is now as balanced as your mental right now.
Damn, that was the video game wisdom right at the top. We're flipping the episode. It's all mirrored today.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all downhill from here now. Got no more surprises, no more wisdom. No more potential podcast episode names.
No,
it's just good old fashioned video game analysis from here on out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, does that suggest that our normal episodes are the best right at the beginning? No, inverse, that they're the worst at the beginning and then they only get better.
We ramp up, baby. We get better as we go.
That's true. Yeah. Getting hot, heated up.
Exactly. Like Hikari.
Have you been playing video games?
I have been, yes.
I would love to hear about them.
Yeah, so first of all, Mallory's nieces had a sleepover the other day, and we played a lot of video games, which was cool. Played a lot of Mario Kart, and they are both old enough now to really be able to play the game, which is fun. And the older one is now really able to know how good I am at Mario Kart, which is also very fun. She's like, oh, Funkle got first again. So it's very disappointed. I'm like, yeah, come on, kid. Get on my level.
Sorry, man.
Get on my level. Yeah. So that was very fun. And then we also dipped our toes into Mario Party with them, which felt a little scary to me.
It is that. It is a little frightening. That was my emotion too.
So I'm just like, someone's going to land on chance time and they're going to give me their star and it's going to be bad. But mercifully their parents came back before we got too deep into the game. It was just like a little introduction to the game so far, which felt good. It felt good. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Nintendo knows how to make a family game. It was excellent.
That is cool. I feel like it's going to take a willing participant, you know, like I don't think you can just say, sit down, son, we're playing Mario Kart today and then just beat ass until they like the game. Yeah. But I feel like it's got to be tempting as a kid, you know, even if you're not like super into games, like games are just so flashy sometimes that it's like, whoa, what is going on here?
And Mario Kart's a good one because they have so many control, like assists.
Like assists, yeah.
That the game will almost play itself if the kid doesn't touch anything. Right?
Yeah, and like that's fun still. Like that, I feel like you don't need to be giving them like the full cart experience right out of the gate.
It's way too intense. Way too many buttons. Way too many combinations of things. So yeah, but they're doing great. It was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
They weren't getting last, which is impressive.
Huge. That's huge.
Like, wow.
I feel like as long as you aren't getting last, Mario Kart is still pretty fun. Even every now and then when you do, but like if you just don't get last, it's like, well, I did something. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, exactly. They're beating the computer.
That's huge.
They got a bright future. Bright future. Also, and for me personally, I've still just been waist deep in Metaphor Refantazio.
Yeah, digging through it.
This game has just got me. It's pretty impressive. The cutscenes are so good. I always love it when I go to a new city and there's just like this big, beautiful cutscene and just see this new fantastical land that they have crafted for me to enjoy. And then also I'm really starting to vibe with the structure of these types of games with the calendar, because I feel like it's actually a really nice way to combat bloat and decision paralysis that some games have, because it kind of forces you to make decisions and forces you to concede the fact that I'm not going to be able to do everything because I'm on a timeline here. So I need to pick and choose the things that I want to do and that I think are the most important right now to give me the best chance to succeed in the future, right?
Sure, yeah.
I'm really coming around on the calendar in this game. I thought when I played Persona, I'm like, this is too much like real life. This is too much like high school. Yeah. But now that it's outside of that context, it's just, I'm able to kind of breathe with it a little bit more. And I'm really enjoying that aspect of the game. I didn't think I was going to like that at all, but I'm constantly checking my calendar and seeing, okay, there's a big sale. I got not buying anything today. Just wait. I should go and, do a raid, or I should go and talk to this person, build up my bond with them. Also the cutscene, or like the little, I guess, splash screen when you increase your bond with somebody is so good. Just the two beefy hands with their blood vessels just popping out, making a connection. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. But yeah, still just having a blast and a half with this game, and I'm just really curious to see where the story goes. This is and I think that's also something that's really helping me with this game in particular in comparison to, well, I wouldn't say I know where a Persona game is going, but there is a clear storyline to me in this one, and I don't know what's going to happen. So, or at least I don't have a good idea of what's going to happen at the end of this game. Yeah, just keeps me wondering, keeps me going. It's fun.
Yeah, this is all interesting. Like, having played the other Persona games and liking them quite a bit, like, there's a lot in there. I think that like Persona 5 doesn't put its best foot forward with the calendar system. Like, it's sort of inheriting that from 4, and I think to a greater degree 3. Sure. Because 3 was the first one that's like, all right, here's the thing we're doing with the calendar.
Gotcha.
And 3 has like, the calendar stuff is so thematically tied with the game. Like it's important to the story that like you don't have enough time for everything. Yeah. And like a lot of the like side stories in that game and the overall one too, it's like the motifs that keeps coming up are like, I don't have a lot of time here, or like I can't do everything. Sure. Right. And like it ends up being like pretty moving by the end of it, and like really thematically pays off in some pretty cool ways. Sure. And 4 and 5 keep doing that, and I think like that's good. Like I think the calendar system does really work, but I think by the time you get to 5 and like how flashy and fun it is, I think it pulls away a little bit from the like thematically cool stuff that it's doing with the calendar, and it just kind of becomes an assumption.
It's a game mechanic as opposed to something that is like intrinsic to the story.
Written. Yeah, it's written into the story.
Yeah.
And also like I think just me knowing like a meta experience, like I can get pretty close to doing everything in Persona like 5 that kind of like makes me a little scared, but going into 3, I had read somewhere like, don't look up how to min-max this. Like it's gonna be better if you don't, and you kind of have to choose like, what am I putting my priorities or like my time into, you know, like what is the thing that I'm going to prioritize here, that it like by doing that and engaging with that, you will also have like some thematic shit happen to you, the player, you know?
Gotcha.
And so like, it's interesting to hear you say that like it makes, or like that this calendar is working better, just because like I think it just doesn't, it has gotten a little bit away from 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Despite the fact like both of those games are like so good to me, you know, like they're really good video games. And also it's interesting about the like story being something that you're like really invested in. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I think 5 specifically doesn't always put its best foot forward. I think 5 is like when it is really focused, it's really good. Yeah. Like I think that first dungeon, the one with Kamoshida, is like
that is a good one.
It's so good, right? Like because you know exactly what the stakes are. Like you have such like a problem to solve, and the game is giving you the power to do that, which is like so cool in the moment. Mm-hmm. And each of those like experiences end up being kind of episodic, but at the whole time I'm like, what are we building to here? Yeah. You know, like, where are we going? Not in a way necessarily where I'm like guessing and having a fun time figuring out like, what are we going to do? It's more like, no, what are we doing? Like, what, why am I here right now? Again, it's fine. I think because it is so flashy and fun that I'm just kind of along for the ride. Yeah. But like, I think 3 does a lot better job of that, of like, I know what I'm trying to do. I know the ultimate goal, and like what happens along the way is sort of the fun part there. Sure. And so it's cool to hear that Metaphor is like hammering on that a little bit more with like, I know our overall goals, but I don't necessarily know how that's going to like get done. Yeah.
How it's going to get done, what's going to look like. Why are there so many more levels of difficulty on on my quest marker above what is ostensibly the last quest in the game?
The goal.
The goal of the game. Yeah. So it definitely hints that there are more things to come and crazy things to happen. But yeah, like thinking back to my time playing Persona 5, I just, in comparison to Metaphor, I just feel like it's much more like a exploration of characters and like psyche in a way. So just like you said, more episodic. It's just like very small, like almost vignette-y with that one between the different palaces, which is good, I think. But also like for me to be invested in like a 50, 60, 70 plus hour game, I need a little bit more from the story personally. So
it kind of starts to be a slice of life, like anime almost, which is like cool. But I think that communicates different things. And especially when you're playing this huge, gigantic game. Exactly. You kind of need something to pull you through most of it.
So do you think I should dabble with Persona 3 then, if I'm enjoying Metaphor?
I would give 3 a look.
Because they did 3 Reloaded, right? That was the remaster or remaster?
It was Reload, yeah. Yeah. Reload was the one that came out this year. I would, because I think if this is working for you, there's something for you in Persona.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think 3 it addresses the calendar a little bit more directly rather than taking it as an assumption. And I think like because I've had this experience too, where I'm like, God, I don't have enough time, or like I need to be min-maxing and making sure all my relationships are perfect and shit like that. I think 3 like soothes that feeling a little bit and forces you to focus in a way that the others don't. Sure. So yeah, I would give it a try. I think it's, great. I think 3 is like, I don't know, it's really good. I'm glad that they remastered it. I know that like there was some shit left out of it, which is a bummer, namely the female protagonist, but like, or I think there's like DLC coming out for that, but regardless, like I know there's some complaints about it, but like it was the first time I had played it and I was really grateful for having that experience now. Okay. It also gets you into the game loop so much faster than 4 and 5. Like there is so much setup in 5 before you're just like, what am I going to do today? It's like there's a lot. 10 hours into the game. And then the game is like, all right, now you're going to get let off the leash. Like in 3, you're choosing what to do like really quickly, like within like an hour, maybe. Good. I like that. Which is fast. Yeah. Especially if you have experience with the other ones where you kind of know like, oh, I know what to do here. Like I like have to just like check out what's going on, or like who I know and where I can go hang out with them. Yeah. And all that sort of shit. So I think you might like it. Okay. Do you prefer 3 or 5? It's so hard. Each of them have their merits, like I think I will always kind of have a soft spot for 5, given that it was the first one that I played. And I think that like the narrative of being able able to kind of like directly wrest control from people who are like corrupt and powerful is really compelling to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm very in whenever I see somebody in that game be like, I'm a shithead and you're never going to change me. And I'm like, yes, I am. And then like the next couple hours being that, like that's really fun for me. But I think like 3 hit me harder, I think, especially by the end of it. And I all of the sort of like side stories, the like different tarot card style people that you meet, all of those kind of build towards the same idea most of the time.
Yeah.
They're just touching on it in different angles. And so like, I think that that's really compelling as well.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think that one's really good. I like 4 a lot too, to be clear. I like 4.
Yeah. I need to go. I think I should go play 3 at some point. It sounds like with my brain, that would make more sense.
Yeah.
How far are you in Metaphor right now?
Not that far.
Not that
I've
far.
played like some of it, but my TV has been commandeered by the Super Mario Brothers ship industrial complex.
The game gets pretty dark at some points, especially with the next town you go to after this one.
Yeah.
If you're still in Grand Trad. And like, wow, this is really fucked up, but heartbreaking sort of way and cool.
Yeah. They do that pretty well. Atlas does.
Just in
like,
general.
Yeah. Like this is cool. Also pretty fucked up. Also, wow. Like that kind of stuff is in a lot of these games.
Good. All right. Well, I got more games to play, I guess. These games just keep coming, man.
They keep on coming. Yeah.
These bonky boys. I don't know what that means.
I think you meant video games.
I know, but why?
Bonky Boys is a fun way to get there. Sing the video games of your heart, which is Bonky Boys today.
Bonky Boys. Anyways, great game. Really, really enjoying it. It's so much fun. Anything else I want to say about it? I just want a quick aside. I don't know if you've met him yet, Nurus. He's a great character.
Think I have.
He's a great character. Also, Gauntlet Runners are so cool.
It's very good.
Have you seen those?
Yeah, I like this pops up on my TikTok from time to time.
Steampunk Metal Gears, so good.
Yeah,
so
very good.
Anyways, that's all I've been playing. What have you been playing, Chase?
I have been playing. Let me pull up my Google document. 2 things.
not your Google Doc. Your Google document.
My Google document. Yeah, I need to use its full God-given Christian name. So I got 2, David.
Okay, which
would you like the afterlife or the episode?
Whenever you give me a little R.L. Stein choose your own path,
yes,
I'm always so excited to see how you describe these things. So you said the afterlife or the episode?
Yeah.
Give me the afterlife before.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Nice.
That sounded more profound in my head.
Give me it first.
Give me it first. Anyways, afterlife.
I've been playing a game called Crypt Custodian, David.
Sounds familiar.
It is a game that came out this year. This was made by the developer Kyle Thompson.
Oh, single person.
Seems to be, yeah. This is one of those games that I saw on the Indie Game Awards. It was on their like Game of the Year list.
That's where I saw this cute cat.
This cute cat for potential nominees of Best Game of the Year. And most of the other games, I was like, I have played almost all of these, or at least know what their deal is. Whereas Crypt Custodian and Nine Souls are games that I hadn't played. Nine Souls is coming to Game Pass soon, so I'm going to hold off on that one and get it soon.
Start on that.
The one that I chose to pick up instead was Crypt Custodian. This is like I guess, Metroidvania. It feels a lot like Hyper Light Drifter as far as like kind of structure goes, and game feel too, of like it's in kind of that top down exploring the map model. I think Hyper Light Drifter is a little bit more structured around like that center city in the game, and you sort of like go out on the spokes of the wheel if you're looking at it that way. Whereas this one, it seems to be mostly like upward. You're just kind of going up. Maybe that's just how much of the map I've seen so far.
Sure.
But you play as Pluto, a cat who has died. And you like show up in the afterlife and they're like, hey, welcome. Like, it's the afterlife. And the cat's like, wait, what? Like, did I die? And they're like, yeah, sorry, but come over here and talk to this frog who's going to tell you whether or not like you can go to heaven or the other place. And hilariously, you have been like wandering around a little bit and you found like a broom, and the only way to get to this place was to like break some pots with the broom. And Frog is like pulling up your life, and it's like, hey, you were like adopted by this family and you had a bunch of brothers and sisters, and that's all pretty good, and you were like a pretty cool cat, like you're a good companion. And unfortunately you got hit by a car, which is a real bummer.
Dang.
But now you died. And they're like, so maybe it's time for you to go to like the good heaven afterlife. And then it like pulls up a picture and it's like, but hey, you broke a bunch of shit when you came in here. Like what was that about? And then they're like, so no, you don't go to heaven. You go to the other place.
Wow. The cat was just doing cat things and like breaking stuff.
It was like to get there again, you got your broom and then had to break these pots to get to this part of the game. So like,
gotcha.
It necessarily had to happen. And they're like, all right, well, I guess you're a janitor now. And then they send you to it's not really hell. It seems more like maybe purgatory or something, but it's also where it seems like most people go here.
Sure.
And so like this plays out kind of like I guess like not standard Metroidvania, but similar stuff of like you have a map and you're wandering around different places and you will oftentimes see things or places that you can't get to initially because like I need a jump or I need a double jump or some kind of ability that I don't have right now. And it's like, if you played Metroidvania before, you know what the deal is. And I'm enjoying it so far.
Nice.
It's a very competent Metroidvania kind of Zelda-like. I think like comparing this game to a couple of other games that came out a couple of years ago, Tunic and Death's Door, which are also Metroidvania Zelda-likes. I think this one is more in the vein of Death's Door, where the focus is kind of on like combat and exploration, whereas I think Tunic was more of like a deconstruction of like the genre and I would say like video games at large.
That's fair.
Yeah, it had a lot to say about like how you learn how to play a game or like the assumptions you make and secrets in a game. Whereas I think Death's Door was much like, I don't know if vanilla is the right word, but it was a little bit more straight down the middle with the stuff it was doing. But I still found that game really fun and good.
Yeah, it was very good game stuff.
Yeah. And so like, I find this game more in the mold of that, in that like it's largely gated around combat and stuff like that. Like you're fighting people pretty frequently, and it's got some I guess like kind of Hollow Knight-y abilities where like you only have a certain amount of space for new abilities, and so you kind of have to like choose like, am I going to just be faster? Is run speed the thing I'm trying to get, or like a different kind of like special ability that I use in combat from time to time, which is all I think like pretty fun. It forces you to kind of focus on like, how do I want to play, right? And for me, it's always fun when I can find like certain things where I'm like, I would simply never use that because I never play like that, or ones that are so obvious. It's like, oh, I always am attacking this way, or always like I would love to run faster because that would really help the way that I'm playing. And so like that's always very cool. They also look kind of like 20-sided die, the things that you equip, and I'm just like, that's fun for me. I like that. So yeah, all of that's true. The bosses are very fun so far. It's oftentimes broken up into like essentially dungeons, right? Of you'll come into one place and it's like kind of a larger map that you have to explore and find like keys to open up different doors to get into different sections of that dungeon, culminating in some sort of like maybe new mechanic or something. And then also a boss that I think smartly utilizes that mechanic, right? It's like classic Zelda shit of, hey, here's a dungeon. Oh, there's a boomerang in here. And also here's a boss that has like 10 tendrils up on the ceiling that, only if it fell down to the ground would it be vulnerable. I wonder what we could do, right?
These Zelda bosses always putting their kryptonite in the same dungeon that they live in.
Yeah, they put like the thing that will kill them in the dungeon, right? Like... my one weakness is in here.
I hope he doesn't find that really big chest.
I hope he doesn't find that really big chest with a gun in it. That would really suck.
Yep. That would be my weakness. Surprisingly enough, I am weak to bullets.
To gun.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I enjoy all of that. It just feels like when someone knows how to build one of these games, it's kind of like obvious isn't the right word, but like you play it and everything is just right in the perfect spot. Yeah. You're like, yes, this is a good Zelda like, right? And so I think a lot of it comes down to just like, what are the abilities that you're adding? Does it all feel kind of novel enough? And then also, I think in the case with like Death's Door and Tunic, like what is the extra stuff that you're doing with either the narrative or like the subtext of the game? Yeah. And similar to Haunty, I think that this one's, got some death stuff to talk about. I don't know if like up to this point, I don't know if it's as seemingly focused as Haunty was from what you described. But it's definitely there. And, whenever you roll up and meet somebody new, oftentimes like you can get like these little photographs, like Polaroids of what their life was like. prior to being dead,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty amazing. Like anytime I see, like you'll run into somebody and they're not giving you their life story, but then you'll like find a Polaroid and be like, oh, interesting. I didn't think that like they would have been like this, or that they had a connection to another character that I've already met, or something like that. And so, yeah, I'm always excited to roll up on those. And I think like I haven't quite pieced it together, but there's something in there being said about the fact that like nobody goes to heaven. Like somebody mentions to you like, oh, I don't think they let anybody in there.
Sure. The Good Place.
And yeah, it's pretty similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like what is the game saying by like everybody going to this other space? And the fact that like you are a janitor, right? What is the significance there? Because like you're the Crypt Custodian, you know, what does it mean to be cleaning this place up? And will that sort of culminate in some kind of narrative payoff? I hope so. And I it seems like it's building that way. And so I'm kind of excited to figure out like how do those pieces fit together? Because it feels like I'm like putting the edges of a puzzle together right now of like how all this stuff is going to click together.
Sure.
And it seems like I think I've got enough pieces and I think like the edges are correct. So like, how does this culminate?
Yeah. How do I just put all the middle together?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And fortunately, in between then and now, I have just like a cool game to play. So
that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been cool. So that's Crypt Custodian.
Sounds fun.
I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Yeah.
So the episode, David. And I will say, this is going to be tough.
Oh.
But I would like to see how long we can go without making a joke about the Yee dinosaur.
Oh man, this is a tough task.
It's tough because it's just so compelling to make the Yee sound, you know?
You have to put in the Yee sound all throughout this conversation right now, right?
Just constantly in the background. I've slowed it down to be like 10 minutes long. David, I am playing Ease, the Oath of Felghana.
Ah, that's the one that's YS, right?
It's YS. So maybe Yees or Ease. I'm not really sure.
That's a plural.
That's a plural.
Double Yee. Sorry, I already made a joke. Apologize.
You know, I knew it was going to happen. I just had to sort of call the shot prior to us getting there.
Yeah. So
Ease, the Oath of Felghana.
Mm-hmm.
This was suggested to us a while ago, I believe by listener TK. Thank you, TK.
Thank you, TK.
That I was poking around my Ain Odin, and I was like, you know what, I kind of want to start just like a game and, you know, get into it. I've also like genuinely never played any of the games in this series, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I remember seeing them when we were younger. Like I feel like you see them on like a Game Informer or like an X-Play or something like that.
Yeah. And it's been around for a while, this franchise.
Yes, yeah, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
But it was just a series that I never ever checked out. And so I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's try it. I'll cover it for the show so that like I can be productive with my gaming.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so I fired this up on the old Ain Odin. This was so kind of a roundabout way. It is a remake of the third entry in the series, which came out originally in 1989. And this was like what was the platform? It's like PC 8801. It's like one of those like computer based video game consoles, right? So like either that or like the Turbo Graphics. I think it came out for the SNES at some point too. Mm-hmm. And also the NES. So like it was around that era.
Sure.
So it's a remake of that one, but the version I'm playing is on PSP.
Ooh.
Which I never get a good enough chance to return to the PSP in earnest. Often enough, era. You know, what an era. It also works great on the Ain Odin. Like the aspect ratio is just really nice on that screen. Sure. But yeah, so I checked it out there, fired it up, and there's just so much. There's a lot of stuff about this game that I was not expecting. It's an episodic game, hence episode, David.
There you go.
Or an episodic series, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And it just follows this like one dude most of the time named Adel Kristen and his friend Dogi, which I love. Dogi's a man. That's just a guy named
Dogi's a man. I don't know why that had to be sung, but it felt like it needed to be sung.
Yeah. No, sing the song of your soul, David. I get it. And so any of these games are essentially just like different adventures that Adel is going on, which I find like pretty fun. I don't know of a lot of games that usually do that and are so like not unabashed, but like that's kind of part of the appeal is that it's like, here's just one little story that we're going to do. Usually it's like, the game needs to be the whole story of this one person. And we will like, not that there aren't sequels, but like that they are so comfortable with just being like one little episode about that character. The game also opens with this dialogue that's like, oh, you want to hear about Adel Christian? I'll tell you a tale about him. And it's like, starts to explain to you, like, you should imagine that you are Adel, that you're in this world. And essentially explaining to you, like, how playing a video game works.
Sure.
Where it's like,
pretend like you're this person.
Yes. What decisions would you make and what adventures would you go on? All right, sure. Which again, it came out in 1989, so like maybe that was something that video game players needed at the moment. I don't know.
Gotta explain what a video game is.
Yeah. So you pop it open and like you and Dogi have returned to this like land that apparently Dogi is from.
Dogi. It's
really good. Dogi also rocks. I love him as a character. He's like such a ridiculous person. But you've returned to this land and it's like, you know, oh, I'm so excited. Dogi's saying this, like, I'm so excited to go meet or like re-meet a bunch of these people that I haven't seen in years. Right. And he's like, here's this person that I'm excited to see and this person. And pretty much immediately it's like things are a little bit weird. Like some of the statues that he's expecting to be there are missing.
Yeah.
There's like monsters running amok and you immediately have to go like save someone who is in fact one of Dogi's like childhood friends. They're both like, oh my God, I didn't recognize you at all. There's initially just like a couple of what seem to be kind of menial tasks, not menial, but like logistical stuff that you need to solve, right? Like you stay at the inn and Dogi's like, hey, I'm going to go to the mountain and meet my old master. Bye. And then he's gone. And there's like this crisis in the mines where like the mayor got stuck down there. And a bunch of people are like, what are we going to do? And somebody's like, hey, that new guy, Adel's here. Like, he has a sword and can fight. Like, could we just like try and get him to do it? And sure enough, they're like, would you go on this quest? And me, a good video game player, said, yes, I will. And so you go like to the mine and fight a bunch of like monsters and creatures and eventually culminating in a pretty wild boss battle. And yeah, so it's like this, you know, it's not a dungeon crawler, but it kind of feels like that sort of classic experience of like, here's the town and here's a dungeon pretty close to it that you got to dig into.
Yeah.
Which I like a lot. I think it's pretty fun. I was also under the assumption that this was definitely an RPG, like turn-based RPG.
It's not?
It's not.
Whoa.
Yes. Yeah. Whenever I see these games, I'm like, that's absolutely, come on. Like that's a turn-based RPG if I ever seen one.
It's going to have some really dense mechanics in there. There's going to be jobs. It's going to be all sorts of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, this is an action game. It's like a hack and slash almost.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's I was trying to think of comparisons. It's kind of hard to draw a lot, but like the hack and slash part of it reminds me of Legend of Mana, that game that we covered earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Where like it is pretty active, but there's also like so many enemies that it kind of not boils down to, but it ends up feeling kind of like you're just slashing a bunch of people constantly.
Gotcha.
It eventually gets much harder, so you do have to be a little bit more conscious, but initially you're just blowing through enemies, which I think is very fun. But yeah, the mechanics, all things considered, were not what I was expecting the game to be. I think from what I was reading that some of this is simplified from some of the other games, that they had like way more like traits and stats and stuff that you had to take care of. But in this one, it's largely just like, here are the 3 items you have equipped. And like, do you want to upgrade your sword or like buy one of 5 other swords? Like that's it.
Keep
like,
it simple.
It's not, yes, keep it very simple, which I like. It's it kind of reminds me of games like from a different era. God, what does this feel like?
Goblin sword?
Almost like it almost reminds me of Ratchet and Clank in the way that like you have a set number of weapons that you use.
Gotcha.
And by upgrading them, it kind of changes how you play and the experience of playing. So I like all that. It was kind of a surprise to me. I also really love the like visual style that this game has. Again, I'm not really sure what it looked like originally, but PSP version is just like, it looks very fun. It's got cool like stage design. It's all really beautiful. And then the characters are kind of this like 2D, 3D thing almost, which I find really cool. It looks good still, especially if you're playing it on A and Odin and you can up the like resolution a little bit. So it all just kind of like renders nicely.
Pops a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So all that's like very fun. From what I understand, that these games used to have bump combat, which is similar to Frog for Beltals. Yeah. And so I have to check those out at some point. But I was pleasantly surprised to see that the combat in this was like much more active. Keeps me engaged pretty easily. I will also say in this version, I don't think this is in every version, but the one for PSP has like pretty good voice acting. I was pretty shocked about this.
There's a lot of Ys games on PSP and Vita, aren't there?
Yes. It came out on PSP in 2010. And I was like, I don't know that we had really cracked the code on like good quote unquote voice acting.
Sure.
And like, there's some clunkers in there. Like there's a couple of lines every now and then you're like, that was bizarre.
Uh-huh.
But I will say like most of them are delivered pretty well.
Yeah.
And so like that also like really keeps me around, especially playing in handheld. There's something like kind of intimate isn't the right word, but I'm very engaged with what people are saying oftentimes. And they're just, again, it's just delivered pretty well. So I'm like, hey, I'm like in on this. Like I like the way Dogi sounds, you know?
I like a Dogi. That's a built man.
Yes. Yeah. He's a big guy. Love the sort of like the look between him and Adel. I think it's a neat look. Him with like, he's so blue and Adel is so red, and just the kind of size and height difference between the two of them. So yeah, there's all that. There's like, you know, pretty standard kind of RPG shit in here. Like you're leveling up and you get different stats and you have money that you get from fighting enough demons and shit. But I am very compelled by the story, which I think is like being supported pretty well by the voice acting and just kind of the writing and the pace, I will say too.
Good pace.
Doesn't feel nearly as slow as I thought it was going to. Like, God, some RPGs of this era are just so
plotting
slow. And like some of them make that work, right? Like some of them establish character and location and setting really well, where it's like I'm endeared to this world, but sometimes I'm just like, dog, can we please get to the A plot here? Right? Like on one end, Dragon Quest is doing really well with treating things very slowly, because suddenly I'm like, I live in this world right now. Like this is the place that I inhabit, and I care about all of these weird little guys and Yanguses that I have brought into my party.
All my weird little guys and Yanguses around.
But some of them don't do that, right? Like it's just slow. I like the Tales series, but some of them start quite slowly. Like it just takes so long to get to like what is actually happening here.
Yeah.
Whereas like the setup of this game, and I won't go super deep into it, but like you can immediately see, or not immediately, but like after the first dungeon, you kind of get a glimpse at like, I see what the conflict is going to be here. I see who is on each sort of side. And what the problem is. And there are like major things happening among those people almost immediately. I think that's like the advantage of these things being episodic is that like characters can make pretty big swings really quickly.
Sure.
Because it's like, these are all new people. I don't need to like spend a ton of time like reacquainting you or anything like that.
Keeps the action going.
Yeah, it really does. So I think the pace of it is something that's like keeping me there and just like wondering like what's happening. I don't really know what's going on here. So I'm like pretty engaged with this right now. I found myself today being like, oh, I should go pick up fucking Oath of Felghana. That sounds pretty fun. Yeah. And it's encouraging because like the series is pretty big. And I was looking up yesterday, like what's the best Ys game? It seems like there is no consensus. Like
it's a divided
everybody
community.
Has and not necessarily in a bad way, but like I was looking up on Reddit, like, you know, everybody like, okay, what's your top 5 or whatever? And like I do see Oath of Felghana up there more often, right?
Sure.
And like Origins, I understand, is a pretty fun one, but like some of the decisions are just all over the place. And so I think it's like at a certain point comes down to preference, which I think is kind of thrilling in a way, because it means that there's like different games that speak to different people, which I think is cool. So yeah, that is Ys, the Oath in Felghana.
Cool.
Which I'm having a great time with.
So many games.
There are so many of them. And they're like still very much coming out, you know, like it's not like this is a series that is just like dead and gone. It's been going on since 1987. And there's one that came out in 2023. And not only that, there's a remake of, or maybe just a remaster of The Oath of Felghana that's coming out January 7th. Very soon.
Wow.
Yeah, for the like PlayStation. I think it's coming out for Switch too. Cool. So if you're interested in any of this and you don't want to play the PSP version, there's a version coming for you.
They're making it look good.
Maybe. I don't know. But they looked pretty good already. So I'm like confident about that. I'm sure that they upped the resolution a little bit at the very least. Yeah. But yeah, I will also say if anybody out there is a Fire Emblem Three Houses enjoyer, there are quite a few voices from that game that are in this game too, which I hope they kept. Like the guy who voices Geralt in Three Houses in there. Oh God, what's her name? Edelgard. Edelgard is in this one as well, which is pretty fun. So if you're into any of that, I would definitely give it a look. I'm going to keep playing this. I bet you would like it too. Fun. I think the kind of hack and slashery of it all would be something that scratches an itch
I
for
enjoy
you.
The hack and slash.
Me too. Yeah.
Turn my brain off
something
a little
about
bit.
something about playing Gauntlet when I was younger makes me appreciate hack and slash games.
Absolutely.
And this one's definitely more complicated than that. Like you're getting, magic items and shit, and you have to kind of figure out like type affinities and stuff. Like, should I be throwing fireballs at the fire demon? Like, probably not. And so there is a little bit of strategy. It's not just straight up like hit the guy and you only have one weapon really, but
sure.
It's fun. It's kind of fun in the way that like Kingdom Hearts is fun, right?
Yeah, you have to think a little bit. You have to space and like use your resources wisely, but mostly it's just hit good.
Yeah, hit good. So yeah, that is Ys, the Oath of Felghana. I'm excited to check more of this one out, and then eventually more of the series too. So hey, TK, thank you for suggesting it. I'm gonna keep on this one.
Awesome.
Yeah,
love it.
David.
Yes.
This will bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week,
which is
it's good voice acting, David.
Oh yeah,
makes or breaks an experience for me sometimes. This one, good. I was just thinking about the experiences over the years of having like, wow, that's a good cast, or wow, this is horrendous but also fun. Because like House of the Dead is fun because the voice acting is otherworldly, and sounds like it was made from an AI filter, despite coming out in 1996 or whatever. It's good. It's really fun.
Yeah, love good voice acting. It just makes such a difference. Like when you were saying that this game was like released in like what 2009, you were saying
2010. Yeah,
2010. I was like, that's post Uncharted, so people have been figuring it out at that point, because that was the first game I was like, wow, this was like really good voice acting.
Yeah, this is what a human sounds like. That's nice.
Yeah, it's not like Disney character voice acting, which had been, I think, pretty well done in games up until that point. But yeah, now that it's just actual normal talking, normal sounding speech and cadence, it just makes a big difference.
Or like even, like I would say most of the voice acting in this it starts to feel like anime voice acting in a certain sense, which like is different than like a normal person speaking, right? There's a cadence to it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like so cringe that it's just horrendous. Speaking of cringe anime, David, welcome to the Manga Minute.
Wow. Okay.
Here
that was a surprise one. And you were planning that.
No, this was off the cuff. I've been trying to find a place to get in here.
Sure.
But I didn't have it. Anyway, it's the minute where I have a minute to talk about manga.
Great.
The Manga Minute. David, I thought I was going to be able to avoid it for a long time, but I have come face to face and I must grapple with fan service.
Oh,
David.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Man, I was kind of just reading the hits for a little bit in manga, and like, blame, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really have that much. Like Pluto was definitely not a like fan servicey thing.
Yeah.
And I started creeping over the line a little bit with Don Don, where like, why we got to put him in this position.
Yeah.
And then I picked up this series called Summertime Rendering, which is an anime or a manga, and the framing device is so cool. Like, I don't want to speak too much on it because I think that's kind of part of the fun, but it has a lot in common with Majora's Mask of all things. And I'm like, okay, yes, like I really like that. I'm really interested in what's going on here. Why do I need to look at this character's panties right now? Why is that the thing we're focusing on?
Why not?
Because I'm reading.
Yeah.
It's not time to goon. What are we doing here?
It really does put a damper on a lot of the enjoyment in anime and manga.
It really rips me out of the experience a lot of the time, unless it's something where it's like, this is what the characters are doing, like it takes me from I am reading a story and like I'm in the story to I am now a consumer of manga and I'm not reading manga anymore. I'm just looking at lewd pictures,
Yeah.
And it was challenging because I found the rest of the story really good, and just moments in there where I was like, come on, you guys, why do we need to be doing this right now?
Yep.
And like, I would say that probably prohibits a certain amount of people from getting into the medium, because if it's just like, a lot of the discussions I hear online are like, yeah, it's just something you gotta deal with, right? Like sometimes you're gonna see a titty and that's part of fucking manga.
Just
and
gotta
like,
roll past it.
Yes. And like, to me, as a relatively new outsider, I'm like, that sucks. That's a pretty whack thing to just have to accept. And like, maybe you just read something else, but then there's like stories like this that are hidden behind it that I'm like, I don't necessarily want to give up on it. It's just like such a bummer of a thing to have to accept. And so like, I'm trying not to be the kind of puritanical puritanical American, because I know that a lot of that is just like stitched into our culture, right?
Yeah.
Of like being a little bit more uncomfortable with sex stuff. But I wouldn't say I'm like a prude at any point, right? Like it's fine. Do what you need to do. It doesn't feel like it usually matches the story.
Yeah.
And so, like I just have to assume that more people would be into this if it wasn't like, oh yeah, like you should read this, but like be prepared to look at ass for a while.
Yeah.
So it's bizarre. I'm having kind of a strange experience. And again, just kind of trying to consider like, is this normal in like Japanese writing, right? Like it seems like it because there's a lot of manga that comes out of Japan and a lot of manga is horny as hell.
Yeah.
And like, trying to square that with my own sort of understanding of what's like permissible in my own consumption.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm having a hard time finding that line because it is distracting for me for sure.
Yeah. It almost feels like when you're reading a manga and something like that happens, it's just like forced exhibitionism.
A little bit, yeah.
You know?
Like you're gonna look.
You're
at
like
the nipple
forced
right
to look
now,
at this
fella.
thing right now. I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to read the story.
I'm
And
just
all
here
of a
for
sudden,
the.
this
I'm
is
just trying
in
to
my
read,
face.
man.
It feels aggressive sometimes. I agree. Yeah, when it feels like it's just not in step with what is going on, that's when it really is the most jarring.
Yeah,
especially if they're like telling a sensitive story and then all of a sudden ass. It's like, oh,
yes,
sure.
Which
okay.
like there are goofy moments in Summertime Rendering, but it is like a fairly like intense story.
Yeah.
Like it's like bordering on horror sometimes. And but then there's ass too.
Yeah.
So anyway,
that's how it is.
I'm just having a hard time squaring that. Anyway, this has been the Manga Minute. I'm sure that was like 4 minutes.
I just want to say I'm reading Freerin. It's so good.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good.
It's unbelievable.
It's
that
unbelievably
shit is crazy. I cannot believe how good that stuff is.
It is such a tender story that is being told. And I just love the themes of how long it takes to find yourself, how you have to learn from the past to affect the future, to learn. And now they're getting into an arc where the past is more present than it has been throughout the whole shebang so far, which I'm really excited to see. And the action is so good too. Like it's a very cool power system, I think, that they have built in this universe. Magic seems very real in this world. So yeah, just loving it. It's so good.
Yeah, it's sensational. It's like a story that is designed to be like antithetical to Happily Ever After. Like and like much more in step with what it feels like to be a human, of like it's taken me my whole life to figure out who I am, and like that being okay in a lot of situations is just, it's remarkable. I can't believe how good that shit is.
Yeah, no, it's so excellent. And it just kind of reminds me of like, oh, this is almost like Arwen's untold story of when she walked Middle Earth after Aragorn's death. True. And she's just like immortal doing things.
Yeah. Damn, what a pull.
That's the vibes I'm getting.
Yeah. Got the rings on the brain.
Rings on the brain.
Anyway, David, do you have something fueling your sense of optimism?
I don't know if I've said this for Podtimism before, but I just love the music in Metaphor Refantazio.
Yeah,
the singing
really
man
good.
is so good. He gets me so hyped. It's so goofy, but somehow it works. It is nonsensical,
it's like
but fun.
It's like disarming in a way. Like I don't like, my brain can't apply my normal understanding of what makes a good song to it because it's so strange that it just ends up being like, oh, this rocks. It's very good.
Yeah, and I don't think it would be as good if the person singing wasn't just giving it 120%.
Yes.
He hit a black flash right before this and was just operating at the peak of his powers singing this song. It's so good. It's so fun. I'm just so hyped whenever I get into a battle. Because like
it really works.
In some of these like turn-based RPG games, the songs get stuck in your head, but after, the 100th time hearing, you're like, okay, whatever, it's this song again. But this one, whenever he does the hudda, 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 hoi, and then it goes into like the more orchestral singing, you're like, God, it just hits every time.
Yeah. Atlas knows what they're doing.
Good developer.
The soundtracks. I still listen to, is it Rainy Mood? The like 3, the that song. I listen to that constantly. Like, if I just need to kind of zone out, especially if I'm like, it's actually raining outside and I'm like on the bus or something. Oh man.
Hits.
That song hits just right. Yeah.
It's often raining in Seattle.
It is. It loves to rain up here.
Yeah.
One might say too much, but hey, do you want to move on to our main thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool.
Where have you been searching all along, you're facing twilight alone.
Welcome to Good Games. It's a segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and gosh, all the things that we love about them. It was a soft pitch over home plate.
I felt it coming. I felt it.
Yeah.
It was still appropriate.
Yes, it was the right moment to do, but like I couldn't subvert your expectations and just not do it, you know?
I know. Then it would be like the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones. Like, we're just subverting your expectations.
Yeah, we're trying to surprise you. Like, it's okay if you don't. Just please write the good story. Yeah. We are playing a game called 999. 9 doors, 9 persons, 9 doors. No, 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors.
A total of 18 doors, actually.
A lot of doors is the name of this video. Okay. Let me see. We were suggested to play this game sort of twice by listener Jackson. First in our email. Hey, thank you, Jackson.
Thanks, Jackson.
First in our email, and then recently he had posted in the Discord channel like, hey, this is a good one for the holidays if you want to. Also, if none other reason, then there is a character named Santa in it.
There sure is.
So there sure is a character named Santa. But the thing that he had written about the game originally was, he said, the game I bring to you this time is Zero Escape, 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors, often shortened to 999. This is an escape room puzzle game / visual novel that was originally released on the Nintendo DS. It was introduced to me by some friends who made for a great, quote, hang out together and watch one person rack their brain for solution kind of game. Mm-hmm. This was my introduction to escape rooms as a concept and stimulated the logical part of my brain in a way that most other puzzle games don't or didn't. Not to mention the story and its wild plot twists. There's not a lot I can say about this without giving a major story or puzzle spoiler. So the best advice I can give is never to take anything at face value. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Jackson.
Thank you.
Did you know about these games or like the Zero Escape series at all?
I had no idea these games existed. I'd never heard of them.
Nice. I like that. I like whenever we just get like straight up nothing.
Mm-hmm. Did you know about?
I think so. I can't remember which one I had heard of. It might be like Virtue's Last Reward might be the one that I saw, or maybe Zero Time Dilemma, but one of them. There's like 3 in this series. Mm-hmm. And I must have seen something about them because this wasn't like a total surprise. I had heard of this before. And it often comes up when people are talking about like, hey, what's the best shit on DS? And I was always a little bit surprised to see this just because I was like, I got no clue what is going on in there other than the fact that it's like kind of visual novel-y. Mm-hmm. And so like, yeah, I'd heard it a little bit. And so I was like, honestly, pretty stoked to check it out because I was just like, I gotta see what's going on in there. I love checking things out that like a lot of people have said are very good and I have not yet gotten to it. So yeah, hey, can I hit you with some hot stats about this game, Dave?
Please.
Cool.
Hot stats.
So 999 came out December 9th of 2009.
Whoa. Did they know what they were doing?
They must have, right?
Surely.
December 9th of 2009 is not like a mistake. This was
September
made
9th though.
It's not true. That would have been
really
cool,
missed
but
it.
maybe it wasn't done by then. This was made by Chunsoft, which I was pretty shocked to see like A, have been around for a long time. B, they made like the first 5 Dragon Quest games. I was like, that is a bananas contribution.
Really?
To like video game canon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, they made those. And then also the Sheeran the Wanderer series and Banshee's Last Cry as well, which I didn't know what that was, but the title was quite
It's a great
cool.
name. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the takeaway from a lot of their previous games was that they had been doing visual novels for kind of a long time prior to 999 coming out. And like, I knew that was the case, that like visual novels had existed, but it is cool to see like these are the, some of the people who had been like pushing it for a long time. Mm-hmm. Also, way more games that came out only in Japan were these like visual novels, right? Like a lot of them just didn't make it to the States.
Yeah.
Which I think makes sense. Like I feel like the appetite for visual novels in the States, like, or just in the West in general, was not super high for a while. We were all just stuck on our GTAs and we're like, absolutely not reading in my video game. No, thank you. Mm-hmm.
This is America. Yeah. I'm not reading a video game.
I'm not.
Thank God.
I will not read.
I will not read, period.
You can't make
You can't. It's my freedom.
I do have a review of this game from the outlet Jeux Video, which is an outlet out of France that I typically and still do with this one. Took it from its original source language, French, and put it through Google Translate a number of times, the one language into the other, of it spitting it out in English. I don't know why I fucked that approach so much up on that one, but I mangled it. All right.
It's one foot in front of the other. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
I felt like I was putting like one arm in front of the other on that one. It was a little bit more struggle.
Look, you've had like 200 picture perfect announcements of your Zo video segment. All right. So it's okay to fumble it every once in a while.
Thank you. I needed that. I'll read that review for you now. 999 2 Hours 2 Men is one of those underrated titles. Some of these games will blow your mind and prove once again that video games are their business. The Nintendo DS doesn't have save settings, so if you know Shakespeare's language, there's no reason to miss out on this book that actors will love. And they gave that a 9.5 out of 10.
Whoa!
Loved
Wow.
this one.
That's for Shakespearean actors. They love it.
Only if you know Shakespeare's language and you're an actor, you're going to love this.
So they called it 999 2 Hours 2 Men.
2 Hours 2 Men. So we cut off one of the other things in there, and we got the numbers pretty wrong. And they did get hours, which is cool. Yeah. They got the hours made it through, but men have somewhere along the way slithered their way in here. Yeah,
the patriarchy is real in a Google Translate
in the video. Yeah, true.
2 Hours 2 Men. It just sounds like Too Fast, Too Furious as well. Which is just really funny. I'm just thinking of like 2 Hours 2 Men with like the Fast and the Furious logo behind it, which is like cars and Vin Diesel going fast.
I could probably make that happen for you, David. I could probably make that a reality.
Because I mean, in some of those movies, it is 2 hours with two men.
With two men, yeah, that is kind of a description of a lot of those earlier movies.
A lot of those movies ain't passing the Bechdel test, that's for sure.
Absolutely not. They might be closer to passing the like Bechdel test for cars, like where they talk about only cars while they're talking to each other, which I know is not the Bechdel test, but still.
But like, they don't have two cars just talking to each other.
I haven't seen all these movies, David. I hear they get pretty wacky by the end of it. Could you tell me what this game is?
Yeah, so this game is a visual novel mixed with like a puzzler, like an escape room-esque sort of puzzle game. So you play as Junpei, who wakes up on a boat, in like a cabin on a boat, and there's water streaming in through a window, and you must search through the room by poking on different things on the bottom screen with the stylus to figure out, okay, how do I get through this door that's locked? What do I need to input in this briefcase to open it up? I need another key. Where can I find that? So you're just kind of, and it is like, full disclosure, I'm kind of an escape room freak. I do a lot of escape rooms. And I feel like it does a pretty good job of mimicking what it feels like to be in an escape room, because a lot of what it is like you're just, first of all, it's just searching everything that you can find and get your hands on, right? And then the other part is figuring out, okay, what to do, how to open something up, what's the code. So I think it hit all of those marks for me, which I really enjoyed. But essentially, you like solve escape room-esque puzzles, and then you go into visual novel craziness throughout the game as well, where you just meet all these different characters who are also stuck on this boat with you for at the beginning seemingly no reason, but all gets extrapolated on and explained in great detail, great wacky detail throughout.
I had seen that the writer of this game, Kotaro Ichikoshi, or no, sorry, that's the director. Maybe it was him. I'm forgetting exactly what the quote was, but that like they wrote the story backwards. Like they started at the end. Sure. And they're like, all right, let's figure out how to get to the beginning.
How do I explain this? Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of a fun, I think, like way to write it, because it feels like that. At the beginning, you're like, I have no clue what's happening. And these twists and turns are bananas. But I presume if you like start at the end of it with like, here is what I want at the end of this. Mm-hmm. How do I get back to just a normal situation? Not that any of this is like normal per se, but it's like initially just the setup of I've been kidnapped and now I'm on a sinking ship is like, I get that. It's wild, but like I understand the concept, you know?
I can relate to that.
I get this. Yeah, I've been kidnapped and put on a ship before.
I've been kidnapped onto a sinking ship. Probably how a lot of people feel about America right now.
Yeah. I have. It does feel that way. Kind of been taken to a place that I don't want to be.
I'm hostage on a ship that's going down. How do I get out? And Jumpy, help me.
Yeah, it's this is a bizarre game, and I'm glad that both of us separately had read the plot synopsis, because it is just absolutely bananas, which is fun. Like, I think both of us have enjoyed the trip down Quintet's history of games, which are like, what was it, Terranigma and Robotrek, because like those stories were just absolutely bananas. Yep. And I think this one is like, it is bananas in a different way, but still just like the concept of all of it is wild, which I like. I think we'll probably spoil the whole thing in a second here, but let's like at least hold off until, we've talked about the rest of the game.
Yes.
I also liked the puzzle stuff because it was fun. I feel like it's hard to do a puzzle well in games, but I think you're right that like kind of grounding it as an escape room is a cool kind of framing device for a lot of this. It's definitely not the same thing, but it reminds me a little bit of Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, where like you kind of have to like look at it and be like, okay, let me like really think about what's happening in here and like the context of the rest of the game and see if I can't solve this.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like, again, it just seems like so hard to build a good puzzler.
Absolutely. And I think that this one succeeds in particular because it's on the DS.
No, it's critical for it.
Being able to poke around and see what is interactable and exploring in that way with the stylus touching the bottom screen, I think is pretty crucial to the feeling of interactivity with this game and making it feel more escape room-ish, right? Because that is such a crucial part of an escape room, is interacting with your environment, touching things, feeling things, rattling things. Does this move from the wall, or are they going to yell at me over the speaker system to stop doing that, you brute? And I think they nail it, honestly. And I know that it's been remade for the PS4, and I'm somewhat trepidatious to see how that translates over after having played the Kingdom Hearts. What is it? The
358 days over
358 days over 2. No, wait, no, that wasn't the one that I did on the PS4. It was Birth by Sleep. Chain of Memories.
Chain of Memories.
Man, it took me a long time to get there. It's like I was in Castle Oblivion myself, because
what is
that
this
one
podcast we're hosting?
Exactly, because that one got kind of brutalized. By the PS4 remake of it. So I'd be curious to see what it is, but I just think it works so well on this.
Yeah, no, it does. It feels like that is another game that was like just so built for the hardware. And that like doesn't always work. I think like the on the DS or like even the Wii or something like that, it sometimes it feels like this was built for the hardware, but like maybe not so well. Built for the hardware in parentheses disrespectful. Whereas this one was, and it's like it makes it a critical part of the game in a way that like really works for me.
Yeah.
Not to mention, like, I'm not going to spoil this, but the differences in like the screens having narrative importance too is so crazy.
Yeah.
Which I love. Like, I love any of that fucking like fourth wall breaky Metal Gear Solid. Like there's a reason it's like this kind of stuff.
No, it's great.
It's really good. Yeah. It's also just like having kind of discovered an appreciation for visual novels, I was like way more in. So I think there was a period of time where I would have played this and been like, this is not enough video game for me. But I think going into it with the understanding of like, you're going to be given a lot of story in here is like part of it, but that it will culminate into something very cool at some point. Like there is payoff for the amount of like text being thrown at you. What do you think about the like characters in this game?
I enjoyed the characters. The code names got a little goofy.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the writing, but giving people like nicknames in Junpei's head, and then also then immediately afterwards giving them nicknames that the whole group is agreeing on was just a lot of nicknames all at once. And it wasn't overwhelming, but it was just like, what was the point of naming them that if you're just going to do it this way right afterwards? But I enjoyed the characters. They are all very different visually. They all seem to have different personalities and motives and desires for what is going on in this game.
Yeah.
And they're I think the most important part is that they're distinctive and memorable, right? When you're going to have 9 characters that are vying for your time and your attention, I feel like it's really easy for two or three of them to just kind of get swept to the side.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
all of these characters seem to have their moments. All of them seem to play a role, or like have a role, I should say, of some sort in this story. Yeah. Some more than others, but yeah.
For sure. No, I agree with you. I like that their designs are so distinct. Because it's like, I know who everybody is just based on like their silhouette, like they're all very clear who they are.
Yeah. And I think having their design kind of match their personality was also a good call, because it just makes it so much easier to remember who they are and characterize them so much more readily for you. Because like these are not super complex archetypes of characters, right?
Yeah.
They're all like characters you have seen in media of some sort in some way, shape, or form before, but with a different skin, right? But I think that works when there's so many that you're introducing at once.
Yeah, plus they do go on to sort of subvert some of those.
It's true,
and
in
like
the end.
give them a little bit more characterization, but I think it is smart to at least start with like the super big guy is brash, you know?
Yeah.
Like, sure, okay, I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
The like anime girl with pink hair is loud and has a lot of opinions. Great, perfect. I get it.
Yep.
But yeah, eventually they do go on to like have a lot more depth to them, which I appreciate. I was like when I first started playing this, I was like, I wonder if they're going to pull any of the punches in this game, because like it looks like the initial setup is pretty dire. Like the problem you're trying to solve of just not drowning. I'm like, yikes, that seems pretty intense.
Yeah.
And then we get all these anime characters. I'm like, I wonder if they're going to shy away from like the kind of implication of violence here.
Yeah.
They sure don't.
They do not at all.
No, and I was kind of relieved about that it wasn't like sort of a bait and switch of like, we're going to pretend to be kind of an intense and like potentially violent game and not back that up. But like one of the first thing that happens is one of the like, once you meet up with the group, is that the character who had the number 9 on his wrist is like, hey, I figured it out actually. I'm going to threaten, I think it's the like pink haired anime girl. And we're going to use our wristwatches to go through this door, and I'm going to leave. And he does that, but gets stuck in there. And apparently with some explanation, eventually they're like, yeah, if you go through there on your own and you don't have more than like, I think it's like 3 people or something, then the wrist thing sets off a bomb that's been put in your stomach. Okay. Whoa.
He blew up pretty good.
Yeah, he sure did.
Yeah.
Which it reminds me of a lot of stuff. I think like most recently kind of Squid Games-y stuff.
Absolutely.
Where it's like, it's got this kind of like veneer of playfulness to it, but like breaks bad pretty quick and like really sets the stakes of like, no, it's bad. It's bad in here. Or even to another extent, like Battle Royale, or I guess like Hunger Games to an extent too, of like, you're in here, you're really in here and have to like figure this out, you know, like there are stakes to this game. It's not fake, you know? So I appreciate all that. And like eventually the violence does not sort of like decrease, that it does get pretty harrowing, which is like, again, I'm glad that they set that up and that it paid off. But yeah, again, like it's gross and gruesome, but like in a way that it feels kind of earned in a way. Whereas like some games are just gruesome and they don't earn it. You know, it's just gross and gory.
Yeah. Gore for gore's sake.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a bunch of like branching paths in this game.
Yeah. There's 6 endings?
Yes. Yeah. There's like, I can't remember if it's 6 and then a true ending or 5 and then a true ending. Let's give a spoiler warning here.
Yes.
If you don't want this spoiled, then this is probably a good place to hop off the episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you don't care, or you've already played this game, which I assume some of you have, then stick around because we'll probably talk about some of the extra stuff here. I'm not going to play the Wii shopping music because I've said so much about spoilers here. So be warned. Maybe I'll just play like the first 3 notes or whatever so people get it. Okay, so yeah, there's like 5 endings and most of them are some shade of bad. Like Junpei usually ends up a little fucked up in them.
Yeah.
Like the axe one, I think he gets killed with an axe or something like that, or, you know, gets hit with gas or something like that in another one. And essentially it's like, they're all just different iterations of him going through these different like puzzles and rooms and different characters kind of giving you a little bit more exposition from different angles and shit like that. But the true ending, and I think like the way that it culminates is very cool because you're getting like such bizarre amounts of information of like June, your kind of like love interest girl. Like she's got some weird shit going on. Like
sure does.
There seems to be some continuity issues happening every now and then of like, wait, I thought this person died. Like what happened there? And eventually like some of that is smoke and mirrors from, I think it's Ace and Santa because like, I think Ace is, you said he's like a pharmaceutical head, right?
Yeah. He's big pharma.
He's big pharma and like is pulling some strings and doing some sneakies. to like, I think he at some point like kills a couple people and like pretends to inject himself with something so that like other people can go on. He can be like left alone for a little while. But there's like some kind of tension between him and Santa who is also like in on this game essentially, that he is like set it up in a way along with Zero, the main antagonist, who eventually is revealed to be June herself.
Yeah, who's the person who kidnaps you and brings you to this boat.
Yes, which is
you
like,
think is a boat. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Which is initially like, why on earth is that the case? But you also keep getting these suggestions that like, or like references that people keep making of like, hey, there were these tests that went on a while ago that were kind of similar to this. And it's like, they were trying to test to see if like rats were able to communicate via like siblings, right?
Like communicate telepathically. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Like if they were put into these like dire circumstances, could you like build a telepathic link? Essentially. And not only that, but they were like, yeah, and all this weird shit started happening where like, not only did they eventually do better despite never having run it, like other rats in other places started doing better too, which is like very fun. I love that. It's a very new type, like in Gundam, where it's like, eventually the humans have just like been in space enough that they're starting to be able to like connect to kind of the Force essentially. And like, cool. Be a better pilot. It's like a similar kind of concept of like, eventually if enough people are kind of like put in these circumstances, can you like build like mass telepathy essentially, which is all very cool. But sort of the larger reveals are that like this experiment had also taken place in the past. This has like happened before. And I think the original experiment was that like a bunch of siblings would be separated and one of them would be put on an actual sinking ship and another one would be put on a fake sinking ship out in the desert somewhere. And like that they would have to be like forced to communicate telepathically, but like that experiment went quite badly and like a bunch of shit got fucked up. But
they didn't like put the siblings in the right place or something.
It was just like a logistical failure.
Yeah.
Like how are we trying to study telepathy, but you got the siblings wrong?
Yeah. You made this big elaborate like building to mimic being a sinking ship and you just got the wrong pair of siblings. Silly.
Yeah, it's very silly. But regardless, like one of the participants in that, I think it was Santa and also his sister, who is June, which you're like, that's bizarre. And comes out that like at some point she was put into like an incinerator and was going to die, but had to like reach out telepathically to Junpei.
Yes. This was in like the first.
Yes. Yeah. Long time ago. And so not only did she reach out across space, but she reached out across time too and talked to him on the time scale. Well, you reached out to the future last night.
I did. I reached out to the future and I turned off all the power in my neighborhood.
Yeah, your power went out. And so we had to stop recording. And now we're picking up the same recording a day later. Yeah. I think where we were at was that we were talking about June had like essentially been put into an incinerator. Yes. And her solution to that was, I need to reach out, not just like mentally, but also across time and space to Junpei, her childhood friend. And he essentially hears her in the future, like in the current game that you are playing. And there's some kind of like essentially like time paradox almost that he is answering her. And that's the way she gets out of the incinerator in the past, I believe.
How does that work? That makes
it's kind of a mind fuck and I still haven't quite gotten it.
By reaching out to him in the future. Oh, because in the future she's not dead, she's still alive. So if she can ensure her life then she's able to live back then, because it wouldn't make sense for her to be alive in the future if she died in the past.
I think so, because like her and I think Santa are the ones who have set this whole thing up to ensure that that's the case. Like to make, I know the
what names. A sentence.
To ensure that like the things that she projected out into the future are actually going to happen so that she can survive. And I don't know if I forget if we had mentioned this already, but like it makes the context that like all the things that are happening on the bottom side of the screen are her interpretation as like a 12-year-old of what's going on in the game. So fun. I really, really liked that.
It really helped explain some of the more stilted and bizarre writing that the game had.
in the beginning, it sounded like a children's story. Like Junpei was alone and he was scared. And then he opened the big red door. Like it all sounded very silly. And I'm like, is the writing just bad? And maybe it is, but they've come up with a very good explanation for why it's that case. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's intentional because like the character dialogue is much better. Like the words between the characters make a lot more sense and don't feel as stilted. And so it feels to me like it's on purpose. But yeah, absolutely bananas. I can see how it was written backwards. Like I think you have to start there and then be like, how do I get this back to a normal story from here?
Makes a whole lot of sense because it doesn't make any sense, or at least not much sense coming at it from the forward, from the beginning to the end.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like, where the heck did we get to?
And then I think like for the most part, the end of the game is just like most people get away, but Santa and Ace and I think June or Zero also get away together, that they like manage to escape. And I think that there's like some conflict with Ace, that like the Santa and June sort of like have like kidnapped him at this point.
Yeah, well, I think Ace had been going around just killing people, right?
Yes, yeah. And I think for the like the ends of like advancing the pharmaceutical company.
For Big Pharma.
Right, yeah.
Ace was a real bastard.
Yeah. I mean, like there's a couple of villains in here, but I don't think Ace is doing any good.
No. But yeah, they tie him up in a trunk.
Right, yeah.
That's good.
And then the rest of the people get away, and there's a flash to maybe an Egyptian goddess who is like appeared with like full cheeks out. I don't know what's going on.
100% cheeks. Yeah, that just an even more bizarre period to a very bizarre ending. Like why?
Yeah.
Why is this happening? Who is this person?
Yeah, I think that there's like references to her in other parts of the story. And so like it doesn't come out of nowhere, but I think the implication is like, why is she here now? Like, what is the significance here? And I have to assume that they make good on that in the other two games that are in this series.
Do they all they follow the same characters, or are they completely different?
They're different characters, but like that you're playing, or at least the second one. That was the only one I read up about, but there are recurring other characters in the game. So like other people will come back in other ones.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm tempted to pick them up just because of how wacky this one was and see what's going on. I saw that they were pretty well reviewed too, so might be time to check it out.
Might be time. Sounds fun.
Do you have any other feelings about this game?
No, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
It was cool.
It's insane, this game.
It is. I think that like this kind of game is a little bit more known now, like a known quantity. Not necessarily like a known quantity, but like visual novels that do wacky shit are a little bit more commonplace. Like Slay the Princess feels kind of like in a similar realm to this, maybe without all the kind of puzzling stuff, but still another fun version of this. But it's cool to see it was happening like way back in 2010, because I certainly wasn't familiar with the genre at the time, and I probably would have had my mind blown by it had I had the patience to play it.
Probably, yeah.
So yeah,
we love a good sci-fi twist.
I sure do. Yeah, that shit really works for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jackson, thank you for suggesting this one. Very fun.
Yeah, thanks, Jackson. If you'd like to interact with the podcast more, you can go to our website, podtimism.com. You can look up past episodes. You can look up games that we have talked about. You can look at the podcast thumbnail art that Chase has made for all the games.
Hello.
And of course, you can suggest a game for us to do in the future. So yeah, go check it out. On that website, there's also a link to the Worst Garbage podcast network, which we are a part of. So yeah, go there, check it out. There's other cool podcasts such as Can't Let It Go, .zip, Frog of the Week, Girl Mode, Into the Aether, Paws and Claws. It's a smorgasbord, truly.
We eating good.
We eating good at the Worst Garbage. This is not garbage content. It's just, it's good. It's good. It's an ironic name.
Right. Yeah, of course.
So yeah, head on over there. And let's see. Thank you, Scott Wilkinson, for our podcast art. It's gorgeous. We love it. You can check out her art at co-fi.com/humblegoat. And thank you, listener, for being here. This is great. I'm very thankful for people who listen to this podcast and for this podcast and for my friend Chase. We're doing this on the day before Thanksgiving. So I'm just giving some thanks at the end of this.
Thank you. That rocks.
Yeah.
It's very good. What am I thankful for today? Yeah, obviously like listeners and David and video games and people continuing to make them. Like It's a tough industry, man. Like, I would get it if somebody's like, I think I'm going to hang it up, you know?
Just like, all right, video games, they're all canceled.
They're all done,
over.
yeah. But people still make them, and they're still really good. So I'm happy about that.
Yep, absolutely. Same.
Yeah.
Here, here.
Here, here. Here, here.
Hip, hip.
Hip, hip, hooray.
Nice. Do you have any video game wisdom for us this week, Chase?
Oh, probably.
Why was that so Midwestern?
Was it?
It felt like a very Midwestern response to that question.
Interesting.
Oh, probably.
I mean, like, I've got the Iowa roots in me, you know?
You do.
Like, it's not a place that I've lived, but
I feel like I activated your great-grandfather's genes there.
yeah. Generations of Volbeys buried in Iowa. Bluegrass, Iowa. Teeny tiny little town.
Wow.
I think the gaming wisdom is you got to back up your recordings, man.
Absolutely.
It's so important to back up your recordings.
Thankfully, Audacity said, no, I'm keeping this podcast here. I'm snatching it from the clutches of death right now.
Yeah. We got pretty lucky with the Audacity this time. They really had our backs.
Yeah.
In that, you know, it just came back. You were able to recover some of the audio. And it seemed like most, in fact.
I think pretty much all of it.
Yeah, which is, that's cool. That's great news.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you know, back it up.
Back it up.
Maybe back it up to the past to ensure that you don't cause like a space-time continuum sort of problem, you know?
Also good advice.
Reach out to yourself in the future.
Give it a shot. See what they have to say.
Yeah, see what they have to say. Maybe it's like good advice.
What advice would your future self give you?
That I was just going to say, like, I feel like sometimes I've thought about this, especially when I was younger. Like, if I could go and see myself in 20 years, like, what would I say? And like, I don't know what I would say to myself in the future, but like, I feel like pretty consistently every time I've gotten to one of the ages that I was like looking for advice from, pretty consistently the advice is like, bro, fucking relax. Like, that is most of the advice is usually like, please
chill out, dude.
Chill. It's fine. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the one for me in the future. We'll see. Maybe I need to take it way more seriously. This is the one time.
Get amped up.
Yeah, get it. Get real amped up. What about you?
I'm telling future David something.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like I would just troll myself.
Yeah, you would
just
like
send myself like a message from the past, like, "What's up, stupid?"
Yeah, just like a don't take the door on the right or something like that. That is uninterpretable. Just
exactly.
Like, what does that mean?
Like, what does that mean? Just paralyzed and with fear.
Yeah.
I feel like every time that you wake up in the middle of the night remembering a past foible of some sort, I think that is our past selves communicating with us in the future, just continuing to troll us.
Yeah, that feels appropriate. There's like, God, I like, there's some shit that when I remember, it's just like a physical reaction of like, oh my God, I can't believe that is something that has happened to me or I did.
Yeah. I said
So
you too to the
cringe.
waiter who told me to enjoy my meal. Oh my God.
Did I tell you about this? That like last week I went to go get like food at this bar that Em and I she hosts trivia at this like brewery. And I went to go get food and I had like one of those like buzzers in my hand that they would ring whenever your food's ready.
Sure.
And I was walking up, and as I do, I sometimes will just practice my response to an upcoming social interaction, if that gives you any indication of my particular brand of brainworms. And my brain was running on this track of like, they probably are going to say, do you have number 27 or whatever? And what they said instead was 27, like just looking at me and say 27. And I said, I do, as if I was responding to this hypothetical that I had already set out to myself. Because when they say in my head, are you number 27 or do you have number 27? And I say, I do. What they instead said was 27. And I responded as I do. And
I now pronounce you man and 27.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I've been in the reverse situation of that. And I think the kindness you can do is just ignore it and go about your day. This person gave me half the order and they said, did you say I do?
No, they called you out?
They called me out.
Oh, no.
It was brutal.
Man.
And I had like, thankfully I was able to recover as best I could. And I said, oh, I meant I do have that number. I should have said the whole thing, which is like a response, but still the damage had kind of been done already. Like the embarrassment was set. And I don't think I'm going to cringe at that one for the rest of my life, but like, just fumbled it.
It's pretty bad. Were they like
Really-
trying to just laugh at you about it?
No, they seemed kind of confused, which is almost worse.
That's
If they're
definitely
laughing,
worse.
I can laugh with them. I can say that was goofy. I did do a goof
They're
just now.
like, do you know how to speak English?
Yes,
bro?
that was kind of, or like just earnest confusion in a way that I'm like, oh, man, I fucked this up, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, they just can't follow context clues, okay? So that's their fault.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that might be coping, David. I think I kind of goofed on this one.
If we look at it at a very base level, they asked you a question and you replied affirmatively.
Yes, I think you could get it with
Yeah.
my responses.
Yeah.
But it's not, I wouldn't say it's the top tier of like, I get what they're putting down.
No, definitely not.
It's sort of
I'm trying
towards
to help
the
you out
middle
here, buddy.
bottom.
I'm trying to help you.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I just need to feel it. I just need to feel the
do.
goof.
I do.
You
Live
know?
in the goof.
Live in the goof.
Was the food worth it?
It was all right. It's brewery food, so
Sure.
like you get what you pay for.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of. I completed that sentence. I was like, oh no, brewery food is famously kind of expensive.
It is.
Usually.
Yeah. They know you want it.
Yeah, that's the thing. We weren't even drinking, so it's not like we were like had any drunky hunger. It was just like I need to eat tonight because she hosts trivia and I help grade. At the trivia starts at like 7:15, so we get there at 6:30 and it lets out at about 9. And so like I gotta eat dinner in there somewhere. That's prime time dinner time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I gotta cough up for like a big ass grilled cheese sandwich that's like okay.
Mm-hmm. That's a bummer.
This you live and let live, and that's what I'm grateful for. Happy Thanksgiving.
Whoa. All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.